You know, sometimes life whispers to us in ways we don't expect. Maybe it's in that quiet morning when you're sipping coffee by the window, or when you catch yourself looking at an old photo and realize how much has changed. There's this soft voice that says, nothing really belongs to you. At first, it sounds strange, almost unsettling. But maybe, just maybe, there's a kind of peace hidden inside those words. Before we go any deeper, if you've ever found comfort in gentle reflections like this, take a second to subscribe. This little corner of the internet is where we breathe, think, and remember what really matters. Now, let's sit together for a while. Because the truth is, we all spend so much of our lives trying to hold on to our things, our people, our stories. We build our worlds piece by piece and tell ourselves, this is mine, my home, my plans, my body, my memories. But life, kind as it is, has a way of reminding us that we never really own any of it. Not even this body we wake up in every day. We didn't choose its shape or the way it changes, or the way time quietly paints its marks on it. And no matter how much care or love we give, it still moves in its own rhythm. Think about it. You can't order your body to stop aging, or your heart to never break, or your mind to stay still. Even your thoughts, they come and go on their own. You sit quietly for a moment, and suddenly a memory appears out of nowhere, or a worry, or a tiny piece of joy. You didn't ask for them, but they arrive anyway. And before you can hold on, they're gone. Still, we try. We hold tighter. We cling to what we think is ours. But the tighter we hold, the more fragile everything feels. Relationships begin to crack under pressure. Achievements lose their meaning when we're scared they'll fade. Even simple things, a watch, a phone, an old note, start to weigh heavy when we believe they define who we are. It's funny, isn't it? The things that are supposed to make us feel secure end up making us restless. There's a little part of the brain that lights up when we feel ownership. It gives us a burst of comfort, a quick hit of, this is mine. But that same feeling can turn into anxiety the moment we sense it slipping away. It's like carrying something fragile everywhere you go, afraid it might break. Let me tell you a story. Long ago, a powerful king once claimed that his vast kingdom was his and his alone. He owned the land, the gold, the people. One day, a wise old monk bent down, picked up a single grain of sand, and asked, "Can you take even this with you when you die?" The king had no answer. That tiny grain of sand broke the illusion, because no matter how much we own, no matter how tightly we claim it, none of it stays. And yet, our hearts still resist. We keep grabbing, holding, hoping that if we just hold on a little tighter, we'll finally feel safe. But all that gripping only makes us more afraid. It's like a monkey reaching into a jar filled with nuts. The monkey grabs a handful, but can't pull its fist back out. The jar isn't locked. The monkey's just unwilling to let go. And that's how we are sometimes. We get stuck, not because life traps us, but because we refuse to loosen our hold. Maybe the truth is, we confuse love with possession. We think that holding tighter means we care more. But love isn't about owning. It's about seeing clearly. It's about caring deeply without needing to control. When we let go a little, we don't lose love. We make room for it to breathe. So if you're listening right now, maybe take a deep breath with me. Feel the air move in and out. It doesn't belong to you either. It just passes through, like everything else. And that's okay. That's the beauty of it. Life isn't something we own. It's something we experience moment by moment, breath by breath. Sometimes the things we try hardest to keep are the very things we need to release. And maybe when we finally stop gripping so hard, we'll notice that life has been holding us all along. You don't have to fight the flow. You don't have to own the world to belong in it. Just be here, softly, fully with open hands. And if this reflection touched something in you, if it reminded you to breathe a little slower, to hold a little lighter, remember subscribe so we can keep walking this gentle path together. Because sometimes all we need is a quiet reminder that even when nothing belongs to us, everything is already enough. You know, the older we get, the more life teaches us through quiet moments rather than loud ones. There comes a time when you look around and realize how many things you once thought you couldn't live without. And yet, somehow, here you are, still breathing, still whole, even after losing them. Maybe it was a job you poured your heart into, a house you loved, or someone you held close. When they were gone, it felt like the ground disappeared beneath your feet. But then, one morning you woke up and the sun still rose. The world kept spinning. And somewhere inside, you found a small, steady place that whispered, "You're still here." That's the thing about letting go. It isn't about giving up or not caring. It's about seeing clearly. It's realizing that clinging doesn't keep things safe. It just keeps us tense. The truth is, nothing in this life is meant to stay still. The seasons don't. The tides don't. Even the stars, those beautiful, eternal-looking lights, are moving, changing, burning out, being born again. And yet, we keep trying to make life hold still for us. Maybe we do it out of fear. Maybe out of love. Maybe both. But when we stop fighting that flow, something opens inside us. A kind of quiet freedom we didn't know we'd been missing. I remember once meeting an old woman who had lost almost everything. A husband, her children scattered across the country. Her health, not what it used to be. I asked her how she managed to stay so calm, so peaceful. She smiled and said, "When I was young, I tried to hold life in my hands. Now I let it rest on my open palms. It still touches me, but it doesn't hurt anymore." That image stayed with me, because when our hands are open, love can flow both ways. Maybe you felt that too. When you stop trying to control everything, life somehow feels softer. The laughter of a grandchild, the smell of rain, the sound of birds in the early morning, all feels like small miracles again. Letting go doesn't mean losing. It means returning. Returning to what's real, to what's simple, to what's already here. And it's okay if you're not there yet. It's okay if part of you still wants to hold on. We're human. We spent a lifetime building stories around mine and yours. It takes time to loosen those threads. You can start gently. Maybe today, you just take a breath when something doesn't go your way, and instead of saying, "Why me?" you whisper, "Maybe this too is part of the path." It doesn't fix everything, but it softens the edges. Because when we let go, we don't lose control, we gain clarity. We start to see that we were never in charge of life's unfolding anyway. We were only ever meant to dance with it. Some days it leads, some days we do, but the beauty lies in the movement, not the mastery. So if you're here with me, maybe close your eyes for a moment. Think about one thing you've been gripping too tightly. A worry, a plan, a regret. Feel its weight. Then imagine yourself setting it down gently, like a stone you've been carrying for miles. Feel how light your hands become. Feel the air return. That's what freedom feels like. Not the kind that shouts or demands, but the kind that whispers softly. You can rest now. Life doesn't belong to us, but it's always offering itself to us. Every sunrise, every breath, every moment is a quiet invitation to be here, just as you are. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's everything. If this reflection brought you a little peace, I hope you'll subscribe and stay close. Because sometimes we all need a gentle reminder that letting go isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of finally being free. There's a quiet space in life that not many people talk about, the in-between, that tender place where you're not quite ready to let go, but you can't hold on anymore either. Maybe it's a space after someone you love has gone, but their presence still lingers in every corner of your heart. Or that time after a dream has slipped away, and you're standing there wondering who you are without it. It's not an easy place to be. It feels uncertain, raw, almost like floating between what was and what will be. But sometimes that's exactly where the real growing happens. You see, letting go doesn't always happen all at once. Sometimes it's a slow unwinding, one breath, one day, one tear at a time. You wake up one morning, and the pain that once felt sharp is softened just a little. You walk past a photo, and instead of breaking, you smile. You start to notice the small moments again, the way the light moves across the room, the sound of your own laughter coming back after a long silence. That's the in-between. It's the heart learning how to live without clinging. And I think that's where life is most honest. Because when we stop trying to control everything, we start to really see things as they are. We start to feel the quiet beauty in impermanence. How everything comes, stays for a while, and then moves on, like clouds drifting across the sky. They don't belong to the sky, but they make it beautiful for a moment. And maybe that's all we're meant to do too, to pass through this life gently, leaving behind a trace of kindness, of love, of light. I remember once a friend told me, "I wish I could go back to how things were." And I smiled, because haven't we all said that at some point? But maybe we're not meant to go back. Maybe we're meant to move forward, not to forget, but to carry things differently, to hold them in our hearts, not our hands. Because the truth is, even when people or moments leave, the love they brought doesn't disappear. It just changes shape. It becomes part of who we are. There's a beautiful saying, you can't see your reflection in running water. And I think that's why the in-between matters so much. It's the pause that lets the water settle, that lets us see ourselves clearly again. When we stop rushing to fix or escape what hurts, when we just sit with it, breathe with it, we realize we were never broken, just changing. Maybe you're there right now. Maybe you're standing in that quiet, uncertain place where something old has ended and something new hasn't yet begun. And if you are, I just want to say it's okay. You're not behind. You're not lost. You're simply in the middle of becoming. Trust that space. Let it teach you. Let it soften you. The heart doesn't rush healing. It unfolds it. And as you sit with all of it, the ache, the gratitude, the memories that come and go, remember this. You're allowed to love what you've lost and still move forward. You're allowed to miss what once was and still open your heart to what's next. Life isn't asking you to forget. It's asking you to trust that even without what you once held so tightly, you can still be whole. So take another breath. Feel the quiet of this moment. Maybe whisper to yourself, I'm learning to let go. And that's enough for today. And if these words bring you a little comfort, if they make you feel a bit less alone in your own in-between, I hope you'll subscribe, not just to the channel, but to this journey of gentle remembering. Because somewhere in the stillness of letting go, we find that nothing truly leaves us. It simply returns home to the heart. There comes a moment, somewhere after the pain has softened and the tears have slowed, when you begin to feel something new inside you. Not excitement, not joy exactly, but a quiet strength. It's gentle, like a hand resting on your shoulder, reminding you that you've made it this far. You've walked through the storm, you face the silence, and somehow you're still here. Maybe a little tired, maybe a little changed, but still standing. And that, my friend, is something sacred. You see, Acceptance isn't about giving up. It's not waving a white flag and saying, "It is what it is." No, acceptance is deeper than that. It's the heart finally unclenching. It's the moment you stop asking why and start whispering thank you. Not because everything is perfect, but because you finally see the beauty even in what's broken. Acceptance is what happens when pain has done its work, when resistance is softened, and you realize maybe everything happened just as it needed to. Maybe you've had moments like that, when you stopped fighting the way things turned out, when you stopped replaying the what-ifs, when you finally took a deep breath and said, "All right, this is where I am." There's peace in that moment, quiet and real. The world doesn't need to change for you to feel calm again. You just stop needing it to. I once heard someone say, happiness isn't getting what you want. It's loving what you have. And I think acceptance is the bridge between the two. Because once you stop trying to force life into your plan, you start seeing the small miracles that were always there. The sunlight on your hands, the sound of rain, the smile of a stranger passing by. Life begins to feel like something you can rest in, not something you have to control. And you start realizing you never really lost anything essential. The people who left, the moments that passed, the dreams that faded, they all shaped you. They gave you the depth, the softness, the understanding you carry now. Everything you've been through has prepared you for this exact moment. So maybe nothing was ever really taken away. Maybe it was simply transformed. Acceptance doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care differently. You love without trying to own. You show up without trying to fix. You listen without needing to respond. You just let life be what it is, messy, beautiful, unpredictable, and you meet it with open hands. There's a quiet kind of courage in that. Sometimes when I walk in nature, I watch the trees. They don't cling to their leaves when autumn comes. They don't fight the wind or curse the cold. They simply let go, trusting that new life will come again when the time is right. Maybe we're meant to do the same, to trust the seasons of our own hearts, to believe that what's meant for us will return and what's not will fade gracefully. So, if you're listening right now and life hasn't gone the way you thought it would, it's okay. Maybe this is not the ending. Maybe it's a gentle beginning of something new. Sometimes peace doesn't come when things get easier. It comes when you stop needing them to be different. Take a slow breath with me. Feel the air moving in and out, unforced, effortless. That's what acceptance feels like. It's the heart breathing freely again. And if these words reach you, if they remind you that strength can be quiet, that peace doesn't have to shout, I'd love for you to stay connected. Subscribe, not for more noise, but for moments like this, where we just sit together, breathe, and remember that it's okay to be human. Because at the end of the day, acceptance isn't something we find once and keep forever. It's something we practice. Every sunrise, every goodbye, every time we whisper, maybe this too belongs. You know, once the noise settles and the heart begins to accept what is, there's a strange kind of quiet that fills the space. It's not the silence of emptiness. It's the silence of peace. The kind that doesn't need to explain or prove anything. The kind that just is. Maybe for the first time in a long while, you're not rushing to fix something or make sense of it or turn it into a lesson. You're just sitting there breathing, feeling the air move through you, and realizing that this simple moment is enough. It's funny how we spend so much of our lives chasing peace as if it's hiding somewhere far away, in the next chapter, the next success, the next relationship. But peace isn't waiting for us out there. It's here, in the pause between breaths, in the sound of the wind moving through the trees, in the warmth of sunlight touching your face. It's been here all along, just quiet enough that we kept missing it while we were busy searching. And when you start to really feel it, when you stop running and let yourself be still, you realize that peace was never something to earn. It's what's left when the wanting fades, when the shoulds and what ifs lose their power, when you finally let yourself rest in the truth that this moment, right now, is already complete. Maybe you're sitting in your living room. Maybe you're out on a porch somewhere watching the sky turn gold. Wherever you are, let yourself sink into the present. Feel how the world moves gently around you without needing your permission. The birds sing, the leaves drift, the waves roll in and out. Life has its own rhythm, and you're part of it. You always have been. There's a beautiful thing that happens when we stop chasing peace and start noticing it. The little things begin to glow again. The laughter of a grandchild, the smell of coffee in the morning, the soft hum of a quiet house. Those are the moments that remind us peace isn't grand or distant. It's woven into the ordinary. And maybe that's what makes it sacred. When we let go of needing life to be perfect, it opens up in new ways. We stop measuring our days by what we've lost or gained, and we start feeling grateful just to be here, to witness it all. Maybe this is what the Buddha meant when he spoke about being awake. Not a grand awakening, but a gentle one, where you realize that right here, right now, you have everything you need to be whole. And sure, there will still be hard days. There will still be moments when old memories ache, or when loneliness whispers again. But even then, you'll know that peace isn't gone. It's just sitting quietly beneath it all, waiting for you to notice. You don't have to force it. You don't have to earn it. Just breathe and let it rise. Maybe peace isn't the end of the journey, but the place we return to when we stop running, the home we never really left. So as you listen to these words, take another slow breath. Feel your shoulders soften. Feel your heart rest. You're okay. You've always been okay, even on the days you thought you weren't. And if this moment brings you a sense of calm, even just a little, I'd love for you to stay with me here. Subscribe if you'd like, not for more noise, but for more stillness, more gentle reminders that peace is never far away. It's right where you are, because at the end of it all, life isn't asking us to be perfect. It's simply asking us to be present, to show up softly, fully, and let every breath remind us that being here is enough. There's something tender that begins to unfold once we've touched that quiet place inside, that peace that doesn't ask for anything. When you stop holding on so tightly, when you finally make space within yourself, something beautiful starts to fill it. It's compassion, not the kind you read about in books or hear in long talks, but the kind that feels like warmth in your chest, soft, unspoken, and real. You start to notice people differently. Maybe it's the tired woman at the grocery store who looks like she's carrying the weight of the world, or the old man who sits alone at the park, feeding the birds every afternoon. You don't know their stories, but something in you reaches out quietly like a hand without words. You don't pity them. You simply see them, and that changes everything. Because once you've learned to let go of your own walls, you begin to see that everyone is just trying to find peace in their own way. Some hide behind anger, some behind pride, some behind endless busyness. But underneath all that, every person is just longing to be okay, to feel safe, to be loved, to belong. And when you really understand that, judgment fades away. You stop needing people to be different before you can care about them. I remember hearing a story about an old monk who was sweeping the temple floor one evening. A young man came to him, angry, saying he couldn't meditate, that his mind was too full of resentment. The monk just smiled and said, "Then sweep with your heart, not your thoughts." The young man didn't understand at first, but as he swept in silence, his anger softened. not because he forced it to, but because he stopped fighting with it. Compassion often begins that way, quietly, in moments when we stop trying to fix ourselves and just allow ourselves to feel. Maybe that's what the Buddha meant when he spoke of loving kindness. It's not about grand gestures. It's the way we look at one another, the way we listen, the way we choose patience over irritation. It's in a soft word when we could have stayed silent, or a gentle smile when the world feels heavy. Compassion doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be real. And the more we give it, the more it gives back. Have you ever noticed how your heart feels lighter when you do something kind, even something small, holding a door, sending a message, forgiving someone who never said sorry? That's because compassion frees us, too. It reminds us that we're not separate, that the peace we give becomes the peace we receive. There's a quiet truth here. When we let go of the idea that everything belongs to us, we realize that we belong to each other. The walls we built to protect ourselves start to dissolve, and what's left is connection. Not the kind that demands or clings, but the kind that simply is. So maybe today you can start small. Call someone you haven't spoken to in a while. Say thank you to the person who shows up for you. Or simply smile at a stranger. These little things, they ripple in ways we can't see. Compassion doesn't always change the world overnight, but it changes your world moment by moment. And if your heart has been tired lately, if you've been carrying too much, maybe the kindest thing you can do is offer compassion to yourself. Whisper softly, "It's okay. I'm still learning." You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it all figured out. Just treat yourself the way you treat someone you love, with patience, forgiveness, and a gentle hand. Because compassion isn't a duty. It's a way of remembering that under all our struggles, we're made of the same tenderness, the same hope, the same light that moves quietly through everything. So take a deep breath right now. Feel the air fill your chest. Let it remind you you're not alone in this. None of us are. We're all just walking each other home, one act of kindness at a time. And if these words bring you even a little bit of calm, I'd love for you to stay on this journey with me. Subscribe if you like, not for lessons, but for shared moments like this, soft, human, and true. Because the more hearts we open, the gentler the world becomes. There's a kind of love that doesn't ask to own or control. It doesn't tighten its grip when things start to change, and it doesn't shrink in fear when life shifts around it. It's the kind of love that breathes, wide, gentle, and free. Maybe you felt it once or twice in your life, in those rare moments when your heart opened without expecting anything back. It's not loud. It doesn't demand. It simply is. But most of us, without meaning to, learn to love with fear. We love as if holding on tighter will keep things from slipping away. We fear losing people, losing moments, losing ourselves. We start to believe that love and possession are the same thing. Yet, that kind of love is fragile, isn't it? It lives in the shadow of anxiety, constantly watching, worrying, trying to control what can never be controlled. I once knew a woman who used to say, "Every time I love something, I get scared." She had lost a lot in her life. People, homes, even pieces of her own health. She told me, "It's like happiness makes me nervous because I know it can disappear." But one day she said something different. I realized maybe love isn't meant to make me safe. Maybe it's meant to make me alive. Those words stayed with me because she had stopped trying to protect her heart and started letting it breathe again. Maybe that's what the Buddha meant when he said that clinging leads to suffering. It's not that we shouldn't love deeply. It's that we should love wisely. To love wisely means to let the people we care for grow, to let life move the way it needs to, It means to hold someone's hand not because we're afraid they'll leave, but because we want to walk beside them for however long life allows. You see, fear always whispers that love will be lost, but love whispers back, I was never meant to be kept. I was meant to be shared. When you understand that, something shifts. You stop chasing permanence in a world that was never meant to stand still. You begin to love in the present, not because it will last forever, but because it's beautiful now. Think of the ocean. No wave ever stays, and yet we never doubt its beauty. Each one rises, dances in the light, and returns home again. Love is like that. It comes and goes in form, but its essence never disappears. Every person you've loved, every smile, every goodbye, they've all become part of who you are. Nothing truly leaves. It just changes shape. When love is free from fear, it becomes lighter. You stop needing to be needed. You stop trying to prove your worth. You stop mistaking attachment for connection. Love, in its purest form, doesn't hold, it embraces. It moves like air, like sunlight, reaching places words never could. And maybe this is what freedom really means, not being untouched by love, but untouched by fear. To love without fear is to trust life. It's to believe that whatever is meant to stay will stay, and whatever must go will leave beauty behind. It's the courage to say, I'll love you even knowing this moment won't last, and still smile because you were lucky enough to feel it. If you've ever lost someone you loved, you know how much the heart can ache. But you also know that love doesn't end there. It becomes memory, presence, softness. It becomes a whisper in the quiet moments, a warmth that shows up in unexpected ways. And in that way, love never truly leaves. So tonight, maybe you can sit for a moment and think of the people you've loved, not with sadness, but with gratitude. Feel how they still live within you, how every act of kindness you share now carries a piece of them. This is what it means to love without fear, to understand that nothing is ever truly lost when love has touched it. Take a slow breath. Let your heart soften. You're allowed to love and still let go. You're allowed to care deeply without needing to control. You're allowed to feel joy even after loss. Because love, when it's pure, doesn't ask you to hold on. It asks you open up. And if this moment brings you a sense of peace, if it feels like something inside you just loosen a little, I'd love for you to stay with me on this journey. Subscribe if you like, not for lessons or answers, but for gentle reminders that love, peace, and freedom can live together in the same heart. There comes a time in life when we begin to understand that not everything needs to be controlled, that maybe life knows what it's doing even when it doesn't look like it. You see, trust isn't something we're born with. It's something we rediscover after we've been hurt, after we've fallen, after life has shown us that even pain can have its own kind of purpose. When we finally learn to stop wrestling with what is and start flowing with it, something inside us softens. The noise fades, the fear quiets, and what's left is a quiet faith. Not in some faraway heaven, but in the rhythm of life itself. We spend so much of our lives trying to make things certain, don't we? We plan, we analyze, we pray for clarity before we take the next step. But life doesn't always hand us a clear map. Sometimes it gives us fog and silence and asks us to walk anyway. And maybe that's the real test, not whether we can see the path, but whether we can trust that it's there. I remember once sitting by a river in autumn, watching leaves drift downstream. Each one had its own way of moving, some spinning, some floating, some sinking for a moment before rising again. None of them resisted the current, and yet they all found their way. That image stayed with me, because that's what trust feels like. It's not about knowing where the river ends. It's about resting in the current, knowing it carries you where you need to go. The Buddha often spoke of impermanence not as a curse, but as the very reason peace is possible. If everything changed, then suffering could too. If storms rise, they can also pass. So when you stop clinging to outcomes, when you stop fighting to control what's beyond your reach, you begin to experience a deeper kind of freedom. It's not the freedom of getting what you want. It's the freedom of no longer being afraid of what happens next. There's a quiet strength that comes from trusting life. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop fearing. You stop assuming that pain means punishment or that joy means reward. You start seeing that every experience, the heartbreak, the healing, the loss, the laughter, they're all just parts of the same great unfolding. You realize that life isn't happening to you. It's happening through you. I once met an old monk who told me, when you stop asking life to make sense, it starts making peace. He has spent years in silence, and his eyes had that calm, knowing light, the kind that comes from someone who has stopped resisting the flow. He said, "The river doesn't argue with the rocks. It just keeps moving." That stayed with me, because isn't that what we all long to do? To keep moving, even when we don't understand. When you learn to trust life, you also learn to trust yourself. Not the self that overthinks or panics, but the quiet awareness that watches all of it. That awareness, that deep stillness inside you has seen everything come and go, your emotions, your thoughts, your fears, and yet it remains. That's the part of you that life speaks to when the world goes quiet. That's where real faith begins. And perhaps trust isn't something we build, but something we return to, like a child who once believed that each sunrise was a promise, not a coincidence. Like someone who has fallen enough times to know that the ground always holds. Trust grows in the soil of surrender, not giving up, but giving in. It's the gentle art of saying, I don't know what comes next, but I'll meet it with an open heart. If you've ever walked through loss, you know how fragile trust can feel. But somehow, even in the ache, there's a whisper that says, keep going. That whisper is life itself, reminding you that you survived every storm before this one. Trust doesn't mean you stop feeling pain. It means you believe that the pain won't define you. It means you choose to see change not as an enemy, but as a companion on the journey. So maybe tonight you can pause for a moment, not to fix or figure out anything, but just to breathe and say to yourself, I am where I need to be. Let that sentence sink in. Let it soften the weight you've been carrying. Because in that stillness, trust begins to bloom, quietly, naturally, like a seed that knows how to grow toward the light without being told how. And if this message feels like something you've needed to hear, if a part of your heart feels a little lighter, then stay with me for part 9. Because in the next chapter, we'll explore what happens when trust deepens into peace, the kind that doesn't depend on what's happening around you, but flows within like an eternal calm beneath the waves. There's a certain beauty in the way the world moves, the way clouds gather, rain falls, and then sunlight breaks through again. It's the rhythm of life, always changing, always reminding us that no storm lasts forever. Yet, when we're caught in the middle of it, when everything feels uncertain and heavy, it's hard to remember that. The mind spins, the heart tightens, and the noise inside becomes louder than the world around us. But somewhere beneath that noise, there's always a stillness waiting, a quiet space untouched by chaos. That stillness isn't something we create. It's something we return to. It's been there since the beginning, beneath all the thoughts, beneath all the stories we tell ourselves. Like the deep ocean that stays calm even when waves crash above, that stillness within you never really disappears. You just forget it's there sometimes. Maybe you felt it before, That moment when you're sitting alone, and for a few seconds, everything just stops. No striving, no remembering, no planning, just silence. Maybe it happens when you're walking under the trees, or watching the sunset, or holding someone's hand and realizing you don't need to say a word. That's it. That's peace. It doesn't come with fireworks or enlightenment. It comes with quiet recognition. It's the deep sigh your soul takes when it stops running. The Buddha once said that peace isn't found by escaping the storm, but by learning to stand still in the rain. I think what he meant is that real peace isn't about removing the pain. It's about no longer being afraid of it. It's knowing that whatever comes, you'll face it, and you'll be okay, because there's something in you that's always been okay. That's the stillness beneath the storm. I've seen people carry this kind of peace. There's a softness in them, not because life has been easy, but because they've stopped fighting what they can't control. Their faces carry wrinkles of both sorrow and wisdom, but their eyes are clear, like calm water. You can feel that they've made peace with change. They don't cling. They don't chase. They just move through the world gently, with an open heart. It's not that they don't feel pain anymore. It's that they've learned not to live inside of it. When sadness comes, they let in like a guest. And when it leaves, they don't try to make it stay. That's the secret, isn't it? To let things flow through you without losing yourself in them. To let life move, because it always will, while you stay rooted in something deeper, quieter, unshaken. Maybe tonight you can try something simple. Just sit quietly for a few moments. Close your eyes. Listen to your breath. Notice how it rises and falls on its own. You don't have to force it. You don't have to control it. That rhythm, gentle, steady, ancient, is the sound of life itself. Let it remind you that you're already part of something vast and peaceful. The world outside may shift, but inside you, there's a place that doesn't. Peace isn't about escaping the noise. It's about finding silence within it. It's not about waiting for the storm to end. It's about realizing that even in the middle of it, the sky above is still clear. And that sky, that boundless, unchanging awareness, is who you really are. So when life feels too much, when the winds of worry pull you in every direction, remember this. You don't need to fix the storm. You just need to find the stillness beneath it. Trust that it's there waiting, steady as ever. Maybe the most beautiful thing we can learn in this life is how to move gently through it. To live in a world that keeps changing, yet not lose the quiet inside us. To love without clinging. To care without controlling. To give without needing anything in return. That's what peace really looks like. Not the absence of problems, but the presence of grace in the middle of them. When you begin to live from that stillness we talked about, that calm space beneath the storm, everything starts to feel lighter. You stop rushing to fix what isn't broken. You stop needing life to unfold in a perfect way. You begin to see beauty in small things again. The sound of rain on your window, the warmth of morning light on your skin, the simple rhythm of your breath reminding you that you're still here, still alive, still learning. Living peacefully doesn't mean you stop caring about the world. It means you show up differently. You listen more. You speak softer. You understand that everyone is fighting their own unseen battles, just as you are. And instead of reacting from fear, you respond from love. You choose patience over pride. You forgive faster. You let go easier. I remember once meeting an elderly woman in a small temple in the countryside. She had lived through loss, through hardship, through change, the kind of change that can break a person. Yet when she smiled, it was like the whole room softened. I asked her how she kept her peace through it all, and she said quietly, "Because I stopped asking life to be easy. I just asked it to be honest. That stayed with me. Life doesn't owe us comfort, but it does offer us truth. And when we make peace with that, we stop running from it. The Buddha taught that peace begins in the heart and ripples outward. When your heart is calm, your words become kind. When your words are kind, your actions become gentle. And when your actions are gentle, the world around you begins to soften. You might not be able to change everything, but you can change the energy you bring into every room, every moment, every breath. And that matters more than you think. So maybe living peacefully in a changing world is not about finding a quiet place somewhere far away. It's about finding stillness in the middle of noise. It's about walking through chaos with steady feet, about smiling at strangers even when you're tired, about trusting that every moment, even the painful ones, are just part of your becoming. If you ever doubt whether peace is possible, just look at nature. The tree doesn't resist the wind. It bends. The ocean doesn't hold the waves back. It lets them rise and fall. The sky doesn't keep the clouds. It lets them pass. You can live like that too, open, soft, unafraid. And when the day ends and the world grows quiet, you'll feel that stillness again, that same gentle presence that's been with you all along. You'll realize that peace was never something to find. It was something to remember, something that's always lived within you, patiently waiting for your return. So as we come to the end of this journey together, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for taking this time to sit in stillness, to breathe, to listen. And if this space has brought even a little calm to your day, I invite you to stay close. Subscribe, if you haven't yet, not for lessons, but for quiet moments like this. Because peace grows when it's shared, and this little corner is for hearts like yours, looking not for perfection, but for presence. Take a deep breath now. Let it fill you, then let it go. That's life. The rising and falling, the holding and the releasing. You don't have to chase anything. You don't have to be anyone else. Just be here as you are. The world may keep changing, but peace, your peace, can stay.